businesses build systems, train their teams, and put strategies in place to not just survive, but also bounce back when something goes wrong. And that's exactly what we're talking about this morning. To help us unpack all of this, I have two amazing guests. One is in studio now, and the other one will join us as and when. I have in studio Benjamin Avonyoche. I hope I got that right. He is the acting communications and strategic partnerships head and international corporations head at the Cybersecurity Authority here in Ghana. And we'll also be joined later by Teki Akwete. She's a privacy and data protection consultant. And they're going to share tips on the vulnerabilities and the practical steps that businesses can take. And we'll also talk about leadership. We'll talk about policy and how the government is supporting companies to actually be more resilient. And so it's a very important conversation. So if you know anybody that needs to join us, please do well to share the link with them. We're on Facebook at ZFMGH and also on YouTube at Z Multimedia. And it's a very interactive show. Feel free to send us a message on WhatsApp on 0544321019, 0544321019. Benjamin, welcome to the Business Breakfast on Z.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah.
I was contacted a bit late yesterday, in terms of today's discussion, but I just have to, put a few things together and then come. So, it's good to be here.
Right. Thank you so much. I really appreciate you. And you were telling me that you listen to us a lot.
I do. I listen to your station a lot. It's almost always on my car.
Wow.
You guys play a lot of music. The other day, I think it was Saturday or Sunday, you were interviewing some of the gospel artists. There was one who was speaking up. There's this young one now that's there was this music he was talking about it's a lot more of a Jama kind of sound. They were in your studio on Sunday. Right. I was listening.
Oh, okay. Thank you so much.
And then in the evening, I listened a lot to your station.
Wow. There's a gentleman who wasn't playing the music. So
okay. That's a DJ.
Yeah, that's him, DJ Wade.
Great.
Anyway, let's get into our conversation this morning. And I want us to just talk about, first of all, maybe the month. It's been a month-long observation of a cybersecurity awareness. How has it been?
It's been a lot of activities in terms of trying to create awareness, work with our industry players and all stakeholders generally to see how we can continue to intensify awareness on cybersecurity and its related issues. And we started off by, first of all, having a media launch sometime in September, where we invited the media. The sector minister, Honorable Sam George, was there. And then a couple of other stakeholders together with GIPC. So that event was at the GIPC conference room, which is a media launch to the Cyber Awareness Month, where we invite the media to bring them up to speed with the events and the activities that will be carried out during the month. And then after post that media launch, we prepared for the 1st October event that happened at GAF, Ghana Armed Forces. We did it with the military, and we had the lunch at the Bema Hall at Bema Camp, where the president was our guest of honor, together with the sector minister and several other stakeholders who were present. And it was quite a huge success in terms of the reach that we wanted to get. And then subsequently after that, there have been series of activity that's been ongoing. Today, as I speak with you, some of our global partners, Council of Europe, in the country, training our law enforcement agencies on how to handle, cyber-related crime and cyber evidence and all that. And it's a 2-day training that is ongoing for our law enforcement agencies. We started yesterday, and I'm sure they will complete today and discuss, because we work with a lot of global organizations, because cyber issues are cross-border, issues, right. and that means that we must work with almost everybody in terms of information sharing to know what's happening, what is the new development, and how we can respond and work together to collaborate. You might ask me, you may be aware there have been a number of cross-border investigations that have been ongoing that the media has reported about and all that. So this has been such a work in progress, and the month has been quite packed. So far so good.
Right.
And we also had a program that was led by our critical information infrastructure department with our service providers and cyber establishments, which are the private organizations that carry out cybersecurity services that are regulated by the Cybersecurity Authority.
Okay.
And they had their program sometime last week to discuss ways to undertake proper, cyber security service providing and to train our professionals and to make sure that they are doing the right thing in handling our critical information infrastructure and also other services in the cyberspace. We also, had a program, University of Ghana, targeted at our secondary schools, where we had, I think, Ola Girls, St. Peter's, and one other school had a competition in terms of expressing their knowledge on the cyberspace, because the new Director General's policy direction is to try to see how we can inculcate cybersecurity as an academic discipline right from the basics school, up to the tertiary, and the curriculum discussions of cybersecurity and cybersecurity, providing cybersecurity knowledge to our people is currently ongoing. The authority is doing consulting with other stakeholders to see how we can infuse that into the academic calendar and the Ministry of Education's policy. So that right from the word go, our kids can understand
what exactly
the do's and don'ts and be aware of this, because where we are moving to is becoming a bit critical and quite complex.
Right.
And one of the best ways to actually create awareness is to let people right from the word go, when they begin to learn about, the usual things they go to school to learn about, to know, to be cyber aware and to practice proper cyber hygiene. Right. So that also is in place. That is the reason why we have started, organizing these events with the schools. And this one was handled by the Child Online Protection Units at the Cybersecurity Authority, called the COP. And they too also partner with UNDCO and UNICEF in the past, and currently UNDCO in carrying out this event. These UN organizations also support our Child Online Protection Units a lot in terms of how to provide security and support to kids and to our young people on how they carry out their activities online. Because you may we may not agree, but our young people are having access to phones. They're having access to gadgets. They're on our online platforms and all that, and they're exposed to all kinds of content. So the best way we can is to put in place the measures and provide knowledge and educate them, advise them on what not to do and how not to share certain videos and certain content to people online. Because at the Cybersecurity Authority, our first point of response to cybercrime is to be cyber aware, is to create awareness for people to know that don't do this. Of course, if there's an incident, we have a computer emergency response team called SECT that responds to some of them, but we do not want to get to a point where we are always having to have to respond to. So
we proactive.
Yeah, so we also have a 24-hour.
We'll get into the specifics. So you get to tell us exactly what you're doing with private institutions and all of those things here. Yeah, but let's get into the meat of today's conversation. Now we're talking about building cyber resilient businesses in an era of rising attacks. There's so many attacks happening. Tell us, or just before we get into that, when we talk about cyber resilience, what does it mean?
What exactly it means is that we must have a digital environment where people put in place measures, and if you like, in more technical terms, the necessary cyber commands to avoid attack. That's basically what it means to be cyber resilient.
How does it differ from the traditional cybersecurity?
It's almost the same thing. What happens is that, so there are cyber professional and cyber service providers that are licensed under our authority. The current Acts gives us the power to license service providers and our professionals. And these service providers then become the point of providing services to businesses in terms of making sure that they are going through their cyber auditing processes. They are carrying out the necessary penetration testing to make sure that, their email, the links, the kind of links they click on, how their systems can prevent some of these links coming in, and all that. So, and also to make sure that they are putting, when we say cyber auditing, it means that these institutions will now come in and provide and advise you on what not to do, how not to click on a link, how not to post certain things on social media, what you can expose, how to even build your website properly to make sure that your website is not exposed to some of these weaknesses and vulnerabilities in the system. So that is what we mean when we say that an institution is being cyber resilient. It's just to meet the necessary requirements that you need in terms of protecting your business and even your own private space. Your phone, your WhatsApp, you are there and somebody sends you a code and say, click on this code so that we can reset you and all that. And then somebody else, maybe you are in a group with some people, a class group, and then somebody had been called and asked to do a certain process they will send you a code and say enter, and then they get access to that person's system. So they now have access to the platform that you guys are on. Then they start calling everybody in the group and asking that, you are in this group and we are trying to reset the group and all those kind of things. All of those things exposes even us as individuals to cyber attack, and then they take over your phone, take over your WhatsApp, and you have to be going back and forth to try to see how you can do recovery and all that. So to avoid such situation is to be cyber resilient. And how do we avoid it? By making people aware of the situation. That is why we issue advisories every month. For example, yesterday we issued one of such advisory when the military opened its recruitment. There are certain people out there who have already created platforms and sending informations and links that click on this and then register and all that, and then you are paying a fee and all that. When there have been a clear explanation on how the process of recruitments are and all this. So if the Cybersecurity Authority take notes of these things and issue advisories that we send to the media and post on our social media platforms to let people know that this is the current trend of event that is ongoing and this is how you have to avoid it.
I see. So, I mean, essentially a cyber resilient business is one that is fully aware and they're actually following the processes. And I mean, by resilience also, we can also talk about the fact that if they fall victim to any attacks, they are able to come back, isn't it?
Yes, yes, of course. We get calls every day from people whose businesses have been attacked and private people whose digital gadgets and platforms had been attacked, and we try to help to resolve them. We work with the platform owners, Meta, they're the ones who control WhatsApp, Facebook, Instagram, and among others. So we work with them. When there's these challenges, the Cybersecurity Authority has a very strong working relationship with these platform owners, and we try to, go through the recovery process in that respect. There are other agencies that we also work with that also focus on the law enforcement end of enforcing a certain level of punishment against people who are carrying out. Because sometimes you go on social media and one member of parliament has like several social media accounts or TikTok accounts or X accounts that are in their names. We try to get reports on these things and take these accounts, down, and also follow up on the individuals who are involved in these situations through our law enforcement unit to try to carry out some arrests in collaboration with the Ghana Police Service and other law enforcement agencies.
So what kinds of threats are most prevalent in our digital space here in Ghana?
I think it's more of online fraud, where people mislead you to pay an amount to them, and send your Momo number, and then they have access. So it's more of cyber fraud activities that are most prevalent, and we are trying to see how we can improve on the enforcement of the cyber security laws together with the other law enforcement agencies to crack down on those individuals, because sometimes the criminals are also very sophisticated. They get ahead, and I don't know if you have read in the media some of the arrests that the Cybersecurity Authority has carried out. These are individuals that were kidnapped by their own foreign nationals. I don't want to mention the countries, but foreign nationals, and are kept in locations in this country where 24 hours they are behind the computers, carrying out cyber crime and all that. And we've succeeded in identifying some of them and taking action to crack down on quite a number of those cyber crime groups that are in our country. So that's just one of the ways that people are targeting, individuals and businesses. Other ways are your own. Some of are the negligence that somebody will call and say, please send your Momo number to me. I want to do so and so for you, or send this money to this account, and out of mistake you run and go and send the money and all that. We are trying to make sure that we take action on those ones. But most importantly, like I've always said, is to make people aware that this is the trend, because different trends keep coming up.
Right.
Different schemes from these people keep coming up. They sometimes they clone a whole website of state agencies, and then when you go online and you try to look for the accounts, their own will popped up. And if you are not careful and you do not look closely, you go and click on those platforms, and then you then go on to do things that will expose you to cyber attacks. And when we see these trends, the first thing we do is to issue alerts, advisory notice to the public that this and this and this is what is the new trend, and this is how you have to respond to it before we go further to take action to take those platforms down, as we work with the platform owners.
I see. So from where you sit, how aware are Ghanaian business? Because you talk about awareness a lot.
Yeah.
How aware are Ghanaian business, especially SMEs,
yes,
of the risks that they face in this cyber environment?
I think the awareness issue is a conversation that is always in progress. So the Cybersecurity Authority has a capacity building and awareness unit that goes around and travel around the country to create awareness and to offer education. And it's part of the reasons why we're doing the Safer Digital Ghana campaign that our musician Edem is currently leading in terms of creating, awareness. And we are mounting billboards across the country to bring people's attention to the cybersecurity or threats that they can be exposed to. So we offer these advice. We are running some adverts, in the papers and on radio and on TV to create awareness in that respect. But there's still more room for, improvement in terms of, how far we can go. And just before we started the cyber awareness month, our awareness and capacity building team had been to the Volta region, they've been to the Central region, they've been to several other places.
Right.
And when they go, apart from the groups and the interested bodies that they have meetings with to educate them, we are also trying to inculcate in community radio discussions. So when they go to the community or they go to a district and there's a radio station, we try to see how they can use at least 30 or 40 minutes to create awareness before they go out to. So the discussion is been ongoing.
It's ongoing, right.
But we need to have a more media partnership, online partnership with our media people, the bloggers, the radio stations across the country, to be able to intensify, the awareness.
Right.
So businesses, and universities, schools, academic institutions, all of this are part of the discussion that's been ongoing. And as part of the Awareness Month celebration, we have had a couple of roundtable discussions at the academic university, Wisconsin, and sometimes with even the cyber establishments, which are the licensed cyber service, licensed service providers, have a roundtable stakeholder discussions and bring in small SMEs and other businesses to participate and to be made aware of the situations that we are in and the threats that are emerging, because the threats, they are not one, and when you tackle one, a different trend emerge. So we try to stay ahead. Immediately anything like that pops their head, we try to provide information on it.
Benjamin, kindly hold on for me. So exactly 5 minutes after 9, this is Business Breakfast on Z101.9 FM, and today we're talking about building cyber resilient businesses in an era of rising attacks. There are so many attacks that are rising, from phishing to all kinds of things, that are in our spaces these days, data breaches and so many. And even Benjamin mentions one of them as the online fraud that we are beginning to see a lot more of. If you just tune in, that's what we're talking about. We'd love to hear from you. Please feel free to send us a WhatsApp on 0544321019 to join the conversation. 0544321019. We're on Facebook at ZFMGH and also on YouTube at Z Multimedia. Those platforms, we are streaming live on both of them. You can drop a comment and I'll read them for you. All right, we are now joined by Teki Akwete, who is a privacy and data consultant, and she joins us this morning for this conversation as well. Teki, good morning.
Good morning. Can you hear me?
Yeah, loud and clear. How are you doing?
I am very well, and you?
Yeah, I'm doing very well too, by God's grace. Well, thanks so much for making time to join us this morning.
Thank you for having me.
All right. So Benjamin and myself, we've started a conversation already, and so you just chip in a few things, and then we can continue. So maybe tell us also what exactly cyber resilience means and how it differs from traditional cybersecurity. I posed the same question to Benjamin earlier, but I would love to hear from you on that too.
Yes, so it's interesting because I will be speaking about the role of privacy and data protection in all of these. You would clearly see that as a lot of the threats that Benjamin had actually spoken about also involves, to some extent, in some cases, personal information, which is very critical to, achieving the potential risk objectives in some of these cybersecurity breaches or cases. Now, that is also where privacy or data protection comes in, where we are looking at people's personal information being adequately protected in a manner that can minimize their risk to cyber attacks. And in some cases, achieving the right data protection environment also creates cyber resilience as well.
I see. Okay, right. So in your experience, I was asking Benjamin a while ago, in your experience, how aware are Ghanaian businesses, especially the SMEs, of the risks that they face in the cyber environment?
Unfortunately, in our ecosystem, I think I would say that awareness is extremely low for a number of reasons. And I think this is stemming from the fact that we're not possibly doing enough, right, to increase the awareness. And sometimes the language of the technology itself is very technical, that it is very difficult to raise awareness in a way and manner that businesses would actually appreciate what these risks are, whether they are data protection risk, whether they are cybersecurity risk, and the like. And so that also tends to create the kind of challenge that we see in our ecosystem. We also have to be mindful of the fact that a lot of the time as well, um, when it comes to these issues, I think the biggest challenge we have across Africa and in Ghana is that we need to demystify these issues, right? If you even look at any of them, what is cybersecurity in any of our local languages? What is data protection in any of our local languages? It's very difficult to actually even explain what these risks are sometimes in our own traditional context, and that also creates much more difficulty around raising awareness. What that then means is that when it comes to these issues, we have to be extremely deliberate in increasing awareness, both with citizens and also businesses as well.
Mm. Right, great. So tell me now, many people think, I mean, many SMEs actually think that hackers only target large corporations. How
Mhm.
accurate is that perception?
I think it's interesting because what is a large corporation is very relative.
Mm.
Sometimes you may see a small business and they hold more critical information that hackers may be interested in, right? So I'll just give you an example in our context. It is very easy for our mobile money operators, those that are on the streets,
Mm.
right, that are
Yeah.
helping to collect more sensitive information about people, how much money they have in their accounts, and they may have less resources to actually protect the information that they are collecting. And so they may be a better, target when it comes to harvesting the kind of information that will be required to, conduct a very successful cyber attack. And so, yes, unfortunately, in the space we're in, I don't think the sizes of the businesses per se, but the information that they are collecting and the riskness of the kind of information that they process puts them, on the list of whether they will be the most vulnerable, or they would
It'll
be
be a
an
target.
organization that would be useful for
Mm.
for purposes of cybercrime or otherwise. Yeah.
Mm. I see. Now, because you talk about Momo, that is actually something that a lot of people are speaking about. How vulnerable are we as individuals visiting these Momo vendors? And sometimes you go and they write your number down. How protected are we?
Unfortunately, from what we see, and I'm coming in from the not-for-profit space where we especially looking at risk, particularly for the vulnerable groups in society, we do not think that we are protecting the ordinary person enough. Why? Because if you look at typically how the transaction happens, and talking about a situation where you're going to maybe transact business or take money, you offer very valuable information or critical information of yourself, of how much money you have in your account in certain situations, can as well, with little or no, as I would call it, for lack of a better word, privacy or data protection at the point of the transaction.
Mm.
Um, Sometimes you're doing this in a situation where there are other people around you. The transaction in situations where you're writing the number on a piece of paper, where it may include a name and all of that, you're putting yourself at risk, right? And that is why sometimes people have even complained that right after they left, they were getting some fraud related calls,
Yeah.
that had some information. It may be mere phishing, somebody standing there, or looking over the neck of whoever is performing these transactions to just take their information. It may not even be the vendors themselves that are, giving these information to fraudsters and so forth and so on. And so when it comes to the ordinary person on the streets, I don't think we're doing adequately, one, to raise awareness and let them know what these risks are, and then two, also to protect them, because I believe some of these things, there could be measures that can be put in place to actually minimize some of the risk that comes to exposure of their information at these points.
Right, but how? What are some of the risks associated with us sharing our numbers and leaving it at these vendors? I mean, with these vendors who keep like a record of these things. What are some of the risks it poses to us as individuals?
So if I visit a vendor and I gave a number, right, either for a transaction or to withdraw money or to take money from that call or that phone, what it essentially says is that there is the potential that this is, first of all, this is a Momo account. It's not all our numbers that are Momo accounts, right? So it clearly gives an indication that it is a Momo account and I am likely to have money in. I can then become an easy target to anybody. You can easily get a call to say that, the usual Momo fraud calls that we've been seeing online, right? And that you have received a certain, these are some of the same numbers they use in cloning, similar, in cloning and sending messages to these accounts, deceiving them that they've received some amounts and they need to send it back and so forth. And so almost all of the risk that runs on a number of these mobile money accounts actually stems from, the availability of the information on that account. And that account number is more or less the number and the name. And so having those critical makes it a lot easier.
I see. Right. Okay, let me bring Benjamin into the conversation now. We've spoken a bit about Momo. I don't want us to go so much into that because we're focusing on businesses this morning. Now, you are at the Cybersecurity Authority. What are some of the most common vulnerabilities that your authority encounters when engaging with organizations?
I think it's most about the online fraudulent activities that goes on. And when I mean online fraudulent activities, it even includes
cyber is online.
Yes, it even includes your people's WhatsApp being taken over, and among others, people having cyber criminals having access to people's personal phone numbers, and reaching out to them and sending them messages and links to click on to be able to go on a particular platform where they take over their control of their personal gadgets and all that. So it's largely online fraud and all that. So I think that what we do is that most of the calls, majority of the calls that comes in are people there's more people who are seeking advice rather than those who had actually been attacked.
Oh, okay.
So people call to seek advice that, no, I've received this call in regards to this. I have had this challenge. How do I respond to it? And we offer advice to them. So that is more than those people who have really, allowed themselves to be exposed, and then we have to take action for recovery. So that is just also by way of, providing information that we offer more advisory. The calls that come in, people seek advice and seek direction on what to do when they are confronted with such situation, more than we have to necessarily take an action when there's an incident. Even though the calls on the incident also come in, but in terms of percentages, there are more people who are calling in on our 292 number, the 24-hour call center, that comes in.
It's 292.
292, yeah.
Toll free?
Yes.
Okay,
You
so
can send a
anybody at all
message
can
or call on those numbers. And you can also go to our website to just put in a report if you have any concern, and then we will quickly respond to it.
Right. Okay. Teki, so how much of the cyber risk, we're still trying to understand the risk landscape really. How much of the cyber risk comes from internal factors? I mean, like weak passwords, careless stuff, or insider threats?
I mean, I don't have the clear statistics today, but we know that a significant factor of it is the human being itself. So we pose a significant risk to a lot of these attacks. I believe some of those that Benjamin has mentioned, you would see that there's always some human in the loop picture that is either compromising on safety or does not understand what safety or security adequately entails. And then, they open the door and allow, the bad actors to come in. So I would say that a significant part of the risk rests on us as humans, right? One, due to lack of understanding of what the adequate security ecosystem should be, and then two, sometimes carelessness by, and then maybe a third will be not even knowing what to do at all.
I see. Right. Okay. Now, you want to say something?
Yeah.
Go ahead.
I want to provide some quick breakdown of the how we categorize, the cyber crime issues at the Cybersecurity Authority. Okay. So we put this in certain categories. So category 1 is online fraud. Category 2 is impersonation, how somebody pretend to be another person to be able to carry out. And then online blackmail. So somebody have something of you and they are threatening that they are going to release it. That happens a lot with people who shared, excuse my language, nude videos with other people, and they are being blackmailed, or they have some sensitive information on you and they are insisting that you have to pay money to be able to, prevent them from sharing such things online. Yeah. Unauthorized access. Those ones are the phishing where somebody takes over your account, takes over your email, your website, and clone your website and all that. And also we have online sexual exploitation and abuse, which is also one category of the cyber related crimes that we categorize. And if you look at the data, online fraud is on top of them all.
Right.
And impersonation, then online blackmail, unauthorized access before, online child sexual exploitation. And the data also shows that out of the calls that comes to the cybersecurity in terms of concerns from the public, 75% of all of it are seeking for advice on how to respond to a particular situation that they are confronted with, and just 25% of it are actual, incidents per the data that comes to our end. And that's just by way of giving some statistics.
Very helpful. Very helpful. All right.
And also in terms of the actions that the Cybersecurity Authority has taken in respect to this matter, we have account takeovers. For example, if you look at the category, you realize that a lot more people who use MTN are exposed to some of these, attacks, followed by Telecel, then followed by MTN, and then Etel Tigo are being exposed, and we are working to take some of these action to do some recovery on these issues.
Okay, right. So we'll talk a bit more about policy and regulations very soon. But let me come back to you, Teki. Now, Teki, I want you to share with us, maybe there's a company listening to us who is trying to start building its cyber resilience framework. Where should they begin?
I think that I would like to say that it must be holistic from the beginning, but definitely your cyber security related. So if you're using, you need to first of all take cognizance of what your um, IT ecosystem looks like as a business. And I think you have to pay a bit more attention to how you are, what are the risk factors that comes with your IT infrastructure, right? As a business. So assuming that I use a laptop as a small business, or I use my phone, you need to understand what kind of security measures you are putting in around your phone and the like that um, will adequately protect you. In order to also understand that, I think that it's also important looking at where these risks are coming from, and the fact that a lot of these risks are also linked to personal information. If you're in collecting or processing information on individuals, you need to think about what are the risks to the kinds of information you're collecting, and how are you able to adequately protect them. And then I think the most important is awareness, right, within your organization as a small business, and understanding, because some of the risks, there are certain things you can do about them. Some of them too, unfortunately, you may have limited opportunities to address them. And I think even in situations where you have limited opportunities to address the risk, knowing about it and knowing who is at risk, especially when it comes to your business, enables you raise awareness with those partners, right? So assuming that your customers, because they are sharing some kinds of information with you, may be at risk, then it also falls on you, not just the cybersecurity authority, not just data protection or any of the IT agencies that are local. It doesn't just behold on them to raise awareness, but you as a business would also raise awareness of your customer base as well.
All right. Right. So it means that there's a lot organizations have to do. I mean, from checking, I mean, all the things that you mentioned, checking, making sure that their IT systems are in place and everything. Right. Benjamin, now you are the authority side. From where you sit, how do you think the leadership commitment? Because some people think that when we talk about cybersecurity, it's just about some IT issues and all of that. How important is leadership commitment to dealing with cybersecurity issues in organizations?
Yes, like my other techie mentioned, the first point of being cyber aware to understand your infrastructure and what you're working with, particularly the IT infrastructure you're working with, and what kind of commands or measures you want to put in place to protect your business. That is the first point of this. And you can always approach the cybersecurity authority on what you are doing and why you need a certain distance on in terms of advice, or if you're able to identify the challenge or the issue, you try as much as you can to, seek for advice and support. Then we will now recommend some of the service providers that we are licensed, or we can point out to you the list of the service providers that are licensed based on their tiers, because private institutions or private businesses would have to work with tier 1 or tier 3 organizations, whilst tier 2 works with the public and private, and those who are the tier 1 licensing cybersecurity service providers work with both the private, public, and focus on our critical infrastructure to
provide some more clarity on that.
Okay, so for our service providers, their license are based in tiers.
Okay,
and you need to be in the cyberspace and be working for at least 8 years to be able to read the tier 1 status. And when you read the tier 1 status, you are licensed to provide service for both private businesses or individuals, the public sector, institutions, and also for our critical information infrastructure. Those critical information infrastructure are institutions that are designated by the Cybersecurity Authority as critical to the country's national security architecture. But tier 3 organizations only provide service to the private sector people. So if you have any challenge and you identify your problems and you want support, there are a list of them that we license that you can always approach. We are the regulator. We just have to make sure that you are approaching the right people to carry out your auditing, to set up your commands, and to have your penetration testing or any other activity you want them to make sure that you are meeting in terms of protecting your infrastructure. We will just say, look, these are the list of people, this is what they do, these are their tiers, these are their licensing system, these are the professionals that work with them, because even the individuals that work with them are licensed by the Cybersecurity Authority.
I see.
Yes, as cybersecurity professionals. So that, because what we want to avoid is that there are a lot of people who are out there, pretending to be cyber, security professionals. And they get all kinds of certification from places that the Cybersecurity Authority may not recognize. It doesn't mean that those places they are getting the certification from may not be proper institutions or they didn't train them well. But because we are in a country where you don't want to allow everyone to access any kind of facility and say, I'm offering a cyber service, because if there's an issue or there's a problem, or you, the individual, now get exposed more by by, say, allowing yourself for the wrong people to offer a service to you, it comes back to the Cybersecurity Authority. Or it comes back to us saying, okay, then we now have to come in to do recovery, when we could avoid that situation by, recommending or pointing out to you the list of the people who are licensed to be able to work with us, so that when there's a challenge, we know how to address it. But if you expose yourself to people who do not go through the proper structures in terms of licensing, they can also then not only protect, they can expose you to, because they may not have the necessary, qualifications per the cybersecurity standard.
Even if they do, they may even use it. I mean, come to your organization and pick
because they are in the cyberspace. There are ethical issues. There are certain people who may have some professional or skilled in terms of providing cybersecurity services, but because they are not regulated by the Cybersecurity Authority, they may have ulterior motives and may want to use it for certain things by having access to your information. But if they are regulated and they know that if they go beyond certain areas, or they carry out an ethical behavior, their license can be revoked and action can be taken. It will make sure that sometimes we protect, those people they are providing the services to.
Okay, right. So exactly 33 minutes after 9, this is Business Breakfast on Z101.9 FM with me, Nitrevi Hammond. And this morning we're talking about how companies or organizations can build cyber resilience and make sure that they don't fall to some of the rising attacks that we are beginning to see. My guest, Benjamin from the Cybersecurity Authority, and also Teki Akwete. She's a data privacy and data protection consultant. And these are the two individuals I'm having this conversation with this morning. You can join the conversation. Feel free to send us a WhatsApp on 0544321019 with all your questions, your comments, and your suggestions or whatever. Yeah, just text us on 0544321019. We're streaming live on Facebook at ZFMGH. Please drop a comment under our post, and also on YouTube at Z Multimedia, and we'll read them for you. Okay, we'll touch on a few other things, but still on building cyber resilience, and that is the big thing that we're talking about this morning. What would you say, Benjamin? What would you say if we find in an organization, or we see in an organization, we can say that this organization is cyber resilient? What are the core pillars?
So there are certain cyber standards that you have to meet, and those standards are clearly defined in the Cybersecurity Act. And also I think ISO, we request that ISO 27001 standards are met by some of the, organizations and professionals, which are platforms that you have to, necessarily go through a process to be able to meet the standards. And institutions must make it a point to undertake what we call cyber auditing.
Okay.
Even if it's once a year or sometimes twice a year, where they engage cyber service professionals and properly licensed cyber service providers to take them through the requirement and the standards. And the moment you go through that standards, the cybersecurity authority, you can invite the cybersecurity authority to come in and say, okay, I have engaged these services for my cyber auditing to check whether my email systems are in place, to check whether my website meets the necessary requirement and standard that are required, to check whether my personnels are complying with the standards in terms of how they respond to certain informations and practicing proper cyber hygiene procedures. And then we will look at it and say, okay, you have met this, you have met this, you have met this, you have met this. This is where the loophole is. Make sure that this one is checked and all that. And the moment you do those things, I'm sure that you will be fine.
You'll be fine
in terms of this thing. But that's not to say that, you see, cyber attacks are such that you can be as planned and as sophisticated as you are, but there can be some vulnerability somewhere that a cyber criminal can find out and then attack you. But the chances that you would be resilient to be able to prevent and cut down on the effects of the attack are higher if you have gone through these processes to make sure that you are meeting the cyber standards. But if you not do it at all, then you get more exposed, and then we have to then now be looking for everywhere to try to resolve the issues, and it will take a longer time. But if you go through these things I'm mentioning in terms of auditing your systems to be sure that you are meeting the necessary cyber standard, your social media platforms, your officers in your organization, how they themselves are even exposing their normal phone, making sure that people do not use their private emails to respond to official emails of the organization, because the organization must have an official email that is hosted on their website and their domain to make sure that they are protected. But people use their private emails, a Gmail account and the rest to respond to then that exposes them to some of these attack, because if you use your private email, your Gmail account, to be engaging official duties, when there's an attack on your systems because maybe you've not done some security check in that particular email, it then exposes the organization to. So all of these things have to be checked, and the more they are checked, the more we reduce the risk. That's not to say we can completely eliminate it, but to reduce the risk of being cyber exposed.
What are the most overlooked elements that you see, I mean, from the authorities' view?
One of them that I mentioned is the kind of email we use in correspondence in organizations. There are some institutions, big institutions, that still that do not even have their own, email, and that is well structured in line with the organizational identity. They still rely on people go to offices and official emails that are correspondent. They are using their personal phones and gadgets and their own emails to respond to some of these things. And sometimes when there's an attack on you, they have official information that has passed through your private accounts, and then they use that to now extend it to the organization. So key among them is the communications and the correspondence in these organizations and the channels through which these communications are handled.
Right. But do you think Ghanaian businesses invest very well into their cybersecurity tools and talent?
I think cybersecurity in Africa is a new frontier. So there's room for improvement in terms of how organizations are getting on board and taking some of these cyber security measures seriously. It's a new frontier. In fact, the Cybersecurity Authority was established sometime in 2020. So it's barely about 4 or 5 years, in the system. So there's room for improvement. There's room for education. There's room for people to understand the risk that, you know, the cyber security and the lack of putting in place the necessary cyber security measures can pose to your organization and to you yourself as an individual. So whilst I think that we are making a lot of progress, I also believe that there's more room for improvement in terms of a lot more people taking some of these measures quite seriously. So I believe that I've always said that, look, it's a new frontier. It's a new frontier. There are a lot of people who do not appreciate or know at all about what is even this whole cybersecurity thing that they are talking about, and why should I be concerned about it? And people sometimes they have to go through an attack before they can even see the seriousness of the situation when their systems are down, or they are exposed to some kind of cyber attack here and there. So we are pushing in more for, you know, more awareness creation, educating our people, letting them understand what they have to do and how the authority can be of support. And I think that so far we've been making progress, but we need to, you know, do more, and we will do more.
Right. All right. Take it. Do you share the same sentiments as to whether the businesses are investing enough into their cybersecurity tools and also their talents?
I do share the sentiments that have been mentioned, but I also want to say that for me, cyber resilience actually goes beyond mere cybersecurity, you know, to holistically anticipating the cyber risks, having the capacity to address those risks, ensuring that businesses are able to quickly recover when there is a risk, and how they can adapt. And I think that a lot of the time, from where we sit in the broader digital rights landscape, I think there's a lot of focus on the technical aspects, right, of in terms of the technologies that needs to be adopted, the computer systems and all of that. That is an extremely important factor. But as you can even hear from the cybersecurity office's own perspective, based on calls they are getting, based on the perceived threats they are seeing in the ecosystem, a lot of it looks at fraud and the engagement of individuals and all of that. And so I think that building resilience in our ecosystem behoves on demystifying what cybersecurity really is, and also expanding it beyond the frontiers of what it actually is, to look at all the other ecosystems that factor into it. Because if you, for instance, look at our legal landscape per se, we have other laws beyond the Cybersecurity Act, right? You have data protection, you have electronic transactions, electronic communications, and all these agencies or laws go hand in hand in creating the right cyber resilience ecosystem that we need. They all also have, a right to actually raise awareness in order to ensure that our businesses and individuals are adequately protected. So yes, I agree with a lot of what he shared, but my additional voice to this is that we need to take a step to actually demystify these issues beyond cybersecurity, and look at a more holistic approach that can ensure that we are able to protect our businesses and then also individuals.
Right. Okay. Let's talk about policy, regulations, and institutional support, and that is where Benjamin, sorry, you coming very handy, because you are at the regulatory part of the whole thing we're talking about. What support systems, and more specifically, what support systems has the Cybersecurity Authority put in place to help businesses become cyber resilient?
Okay, first of all, when you talk about the regulatory end of things, the Cybersecurity Authority is mandated to provide licensing to professionals and cybersecurity. Sorry. Yeah. Yes.
Sorry, your microphone was off. Sorry.
Oh, so in line with wasn't in regulations, the cybersecurity authority is mandated to license professionals, cybersecurity service providers, and cybersecurity establishment, which are the bigger establishments of the cybersecurity. That is the first point of regulations in terms of, who is providing what service and how qualified are they to provide those services. That's the first point.
Okay.
I mean, and to your question about how we are providing support.
Yeah, how are you supporting them?
Yes. Well, how we're supporting them is that we are a regulator. We make sure that the right people are being licensed to be able to provide the support that the businesses need in terms of, meeting their cyber awareness and cybersecurity processes. But we also, as an authority, go out there to organize training and capacity building and support for these small businesses and other even big businesses, and to even the general public,
right,
in terms of awareness creations and all that. And we have had quite a lot of them, in terms of some of them, the businesses themselves invite you, institutions, bodies, organizations will invite you and say, our people need some knowledge, some awareness in their basic cyber hygiene practices. How can we help? We put together our officers who go out there and offer this training, to businesses and to individuals, to institutions across the country. And as part of the cyber, awareness month, a lot of that has been happening from our awareness and capacity building, team.
But are we seeing some very good enough collaboration between the government and the private sector?
Yes. A lot of that has been ongoing. We are engaging a lot in, like I mentioned to you, as part of the cybersecurity awareness month, we had a lot of roundtable discussions that brings in stakeholders, both from the private sector, academia, governments, that we've been having a lot of conversation about how we can collaborate further to be able to, help protect, our businesses in the cyberspace. One of such events happened at the Academic University College, where we brought in all the service providers, we brought in stakeholders, we brought in private business people who are interested in these discussions, governments, and the Director General himself was there to deliver a remark and also join the roundtable discussions to contribute to them. One of the cyber service provider called DDS also had a webinar where there were engagement with the stakeholders, both professionals, service providers, the establishment, individuals from academia and all that, to discuss the way forward on cybersecurity and how we can provide support. And the Director General, Mr. Divine Agbeti, was there to deliver his remarks. And I joined the panel discussion, to see how we can provide support. And there were a lot of questions about how, they can assess the Cybersecurity Authority, which I mentioned to you, that the 299 number is 24 hours open. You can call in anytime. If you need advice, or you even been exposed to some cyber attack and you need recovery, we are there to provide all the support. We, some of your sister stations. Remember, there was a situation with CTFM's Facebook handle that was down. We quickly had to call them and say, we've seen this had happened to you. Can we come in to support? They said yes. So we were there 24 hours. It's been a 2-day back and forth event. So we were very much involved at the center of the recovery of their social media handles. So we are providing support. If need be.
Wow.
Yes.
Wow. I think that is very, very good. Yes. I mean, the fact that you had to even reach out.
We reached out. We saw that there was a post on their social media platform in regards to the situation, because it was one of their major handles that was actually attacked. And then the other ones were now drawing attention that this particular handle of ours is. So we reached out to them. They even mentioned it on air that the CSA called and came to provide support. And I was part of that process, that coordinator, together with our Deputy Director General in charge of was in technicals and operations, and our officer, Mr. Socrates, who has the computer emergency response team.
Are there some specific boxes that organizations must tick based on your guidelines? Are there some things like that?
Yes, but I've said before that you must understand what you are doing. All right, understand your IT infrastructure. You must understand your space.
So by that, what I mean is you have certain things that every organization must put in.
Yeah.
To make sure that they are cyber security or cyber resilient, really. That maybe if they falter, you can penalize them. Are there things like that?
Yes.
From the authority?
Yes. One of them is that you do not engage people who are not properly licensed to undertake your cyber auditing processes.
Okay.
All right. Yeah. You do not offer cyber services as a cybersecurity service provider or as an establishment if you do not meet the licensing regime. You also do not be a tier 3 license authority wanting to provide a tier 1 service to a critical information infrastructure. All right.
Right.
Are
we seeing much of compliance?
Yes, there's compliance. There's much of compliance, because if you do not comply, we will come after you, because there's a reason why you are not allowed to have a tier 1 license status.
Okay.
Because we need you to go through a certain process to see your performance and your level of preparedness to be able to expose you to certain level of infrastructure or certain level of information that you would have to help to implement certain measures. All right. But if you do not meet that and you want to go and provide such services, the cybersecurity authority would prevent you from doing that. And if you're already trying to undertake that, the authority will come after you in that respect. So those measures are in place and said, look, you do not go towards this, you do not go, this is your area, this are the institutions you can deal with, these are the institutions you can deal with, so that we do not have people overlapping and going to places they are not supposed to go. Because when there's an attack on our critical information infrastructure, a lot of people will be complaining out there. The people will be affected. It will affect the national security of the country. Right. So we must not even get there. Like Taki said, we must always anticipate certain cyber attacks before they happen. And one of those anticipation is to prevent the wrong people from offering certain services that they are not supposed to offer. Yeah.
Okay, let me bring Teki into the conversation. Teki, you're a consultant. So from your perspective, what kinds of public-private partnerships would help close the cyber resilience gap here in Ghana? Now, Benjamin talks about the fact that government is actually collaborating with private media, private organizations and all of that to provide some services. What kinds of PPPs would actually help close that gap we're seeing?
So from our end, and I must say that I work in the not-for-profit space as well, with the Africa Digital Rights Hub, where we look at these issues holistically. And so I agree that with Benjamin that yes, we all the stakeholders that he had mentioned are important, but I must say that everybody is needed, right, to build the right cyber resilient environment or ecosystem that we need. So even to start simply, even among the level of the state agencies, there are, if my mind serves me right, about 3 or 4 critical agencies that handle different aspects of our cyber engagements as citizens or businesses. And all these agencies must coordinate or collaborate with each other to ensure that there is the right ecosystem, to ensure that we are addressing the right issues and challenges at the same time. You would recall that as he was speaking, a lot of the violations that he mentioned hinted on personal data violations and the like, which in turn go to greater cybersecurity risk or bigger cybersecurity challenges in the ecosystem. So it clearly means that you can't do this without data protection. There may also be other frameworks around the Electronic Transactions Act that ensure that particularly businesses that are in the e-commerce space, are able to build a cyber resilient environment, that we are able to ensure that customers are adequately protected. There is also the communications regulatory infrastructure, and then also, fintech infrastructure. So even at the governmental level, I think that we need to be aware of all the regulatory systems, right, that must talk to each other to ensure that we are very safe. Clearly, we need academia. Building a cyber resilient environment is not a one-off issue. It is an ongoing area, and adapting means that we have to continuously learn because the threats are happening on an ongoing basis, right? Every day, if you go into a well-structured ecosystem, they first of all identify their risk and are always looking out for these risks and threats on almost a daily basis. And so in order to stay very sharp and focused, we definitely need our private sector actors. We also need academia and the technical people to be doing appropriate research and support in that ecosystem. I also believe that in our societies, especially, the role of civil society organizations like the Africa Digital Rights Hub are very important in creating that ecosystem. One, especially with organizations that are focused on broader digital rights, we look more at the ordinary person and the impact of some of these things. And sometimes the awareness, particularly with the ordinary person or citizen on the street, is the most important, as I like to say it, and it's the most difficult to do. And we need, all the stakeholders, particularly civil society, to actually lead this chart, apart from the fact that government agencies such as Benjamin's and all the others have a mandate and an obligation to raise awareness. It is actually in line with this that for us at the Africa Digital Rights Hub, we have also instituted for years now a number of engagements around cybersecurity, but not just that, data protection, child online protection, intellectual property as relates to development and use of technologies across Africa. And in line with this, every year, and this year in particular, in December, from the 1st to the 4th, we will be having the Data Protection Africa Summit. And one of the things that we started doing last year is to have masterclass engagements. So it's not just a conference, but also we have in-depth engagements. And for instance, this year we are having cybersecurity related trainings. We are having child online related trainings. We're having data protection, impact assessment trainings. We're having holistic cybersecurity related training for businesses, right, that your audience can find more information online. Also, great. One of the things that we have seen as a challenge in the space is that a lot of the time there's a lot actually going on across Africa, especially in Ghana, but we are not celebrating, our champions that are actually doing this work. And so as part of this as well, this year on the 3rd of December, we will be having what we call the Picasso Africa Awards, where we will celebrate individuals and organizations that are putting a lot of efforts into this to recognize that.
Okay, all right. Our time is up, and so we have to go. That's why, sorry, I had to come in there. But maybe final words, and then we can go. So Benjamin, your final words. Maybe one action that any business owner listening to us should take as we try to wrap up this cybersecurity awareness month.
All right. Okay. I would want to say that everyone, not only businesses, all of us, must make sure that we take our cybersecurity seriously, and also to be able to reach out anytime we are not too sure of what to do if we are confronted with such situation on our 292 contacts. You can also go to our website to send an email anytime, and you have a 24-hour response team that is stationed to provide support to you. We must also make sure that we do not just click on any kind of link that comes to our WhatsApp or sent to us on Facebook or in our emails and all that. Be sure of what you are clicking on. If you are not too sure, then don't click at all. And because you can really get exposed and all that, because that is the first point of getting access to you. When somebody calls you and says send your Momo number or your code, or I've sent a link to you, click on it so you can enter your code or something, please do not do that, because those things can expose you to cyber attack.
Right. Thank you very much, Benjamin. Take you finally, maybe some 30 seconds. Your final.
Yes, I think that it's very important that we are all involved and aware that we as individuals contribute to a cyber resilient ecosystem, whether as businesses or as individuals. And so my last word is that there are a lot of resources out there. We should put some effort in, in raising awareness as individuals or businesses, and also extending it to the person that is next to us. So we must be very deliberate in becoming aware of our cyber ecosystem and the risk that it poses to all of us.
Okay, right. Teki, thank you very much for joining me this morning. I'm really grateful that you made time. I'm sure we'll have further conversations in the coming days. And also, Benjamin, thank you so much for coming. Really grateful.
Thanks for having me.
Yes. All right. Thanks. Okay. So, that's how we wrap up today. This has been Business Breakfast on Z101.9 FM. And my guests were Teki Akwete, who joined us over the phone line. She is a privacy and data protection consultant. And also Benjamin Avonyoche. He is the acting communications strategic partnerships head at the Cybersecurity Authority here in Ghana. Thank you very much for listening to us this morning. I hope you picked a thing or two and you're going to apply that to your business, and make sure that you are protected as we try to wrap up the month. Please make sure that you continue to take your cybersecurity very serious. We're back again tomorrow for more interesting conversations. My name is Nitra B. Hammond. Please do take care of yourself. And when you think Ghana, think Z. Up next is The Impact by the Rise Up Brink project. Please stay tuned.
Welcome to the journey of the Rise Up Brink project.